Hey guys, what's going on? It's Josh. I was just recording part 12, and my camera died. So I'm using my backup camera. The quality is going to be different, and actually, just make sure the lens is clean because I haven't used my flip camera in a while, and it needs some adjusting. There we go. Okay, so, yeah, it's going to look a little different. Sorry about that. I've got the, my other camera, I've got the battery charging, so hopefully that'll help us a bit. And it'll get charged up and we'll be able to make a couple more videos tonight. Okay, so, don't forget to look at my pants for all the stuff you need to be aware of, things that you should probably be paying attention to. Link to the manual if you need it, which you probably don't if you found this, or maybe you do. I don't know, whatever. But you can get it online and it's free, PDF form. There's a link to the video with Ruby. She's the Wil-Trans instructor. She does the pre-trip inspection for your information. There's a link to the testing website where you can get practice tests. I knocked over my bottle of iced tea. Luckily, it's closed. There's also the link to Allie Knight. You probably know of her if you found me because she's... And Ellie and Jason and Heather, the Crafty trucker. So I'm going to link to all of them in my pants so that you guys can check them out and show them some love. Okay, so last video part 11 for this. Did I even say what we're doing? I don't think I said what we're doing. This video is going over the next portion, part 12 of the Montana CDL Manual for 2016. We're basically study buddies, and I'm hoping that this helps me. I'm hoping that this helps you. It's a win-win, we hope, ideally. Last video, we had a question. What happens if you have a CDL, what happens if you have a hit and run? How long is your CDL suspended for? Well, if it's unattended property and you hit and run in your personal vehicle or in your CMV, I can't say what your company will do to you. However, you won't get your license suspended. You'll probably have court costs and so on and so forth. If you hit and run and it's attended property like a car or whatever, that's a year suspension, whether it's in your personal vehicle or in your CMV. And you also get a year, based on what this website told me, you also get a year suspension if you're involved in an unintentional fatality and it's a hit and run. That doesn't sound right to me, but that's what this website said, so that's the answer.
What website was it?
I forget.
I just asked
It was like hit and run CDL something. Do you want to Google and find it out?
Sure.
She's...
Just that doesn't sound right, does it? Honestly?
It doesn't sound right, but that's what the website said. I mean, everything that you read on the internet's right, right? No? I'm checking to make sure that it's still on. Because, yes. While Maggie's looking that up, I'm going to read to you. We're at section 2, driving safely, page 2-15, 2.6.5, speed and traffic flow. When you're driving in heavy traffic, the safest speed is the speed of other vehicles. Vehicles going the same direction at the same speed are not likely to run into one another. In many states, speed limits are lower for trucks and buses than for cars. It can vary as much as 15 miles per hour. Use extra caution when you change lanes or pass on these roadways. Drive at the speed of the traffic if you can without going at an illegal or unsafe speed. Keep a safe following distance. The main reason drivers exceed speed limits is to save time, but anyone trying to drive faster than the speed of traffic will not be able to save much time. The risks involved are not worth it. If you go faster than the speed of other traffic, you'll have to keep passing other vehicles. This increases the chance of a crash, and it is more tiring. Fatigue increases the chance of a crash. Going with the flow of traffic is safer and easier. 2.6.6 Speed on downgrades. Your vehicle's speed will increase on downgrades because of gravity. Your most important objective is to select and maintain a speed that is not too fast for the total weight of the vehicle and cargo, length of the grade, steepness of the grade, road conditions, and weather. If a speed limit is posted or there is a sign indicating maximum safe speed, never exceed the speed shown. Also, look for and heed warning signs indicating the length and steepness of the grade. You must use the braking effect of the engine as the principal way of controlling your speed on downgrades. The braking effect of the engine is greatest when it is near the governed RPMs and the transmission is in the lower gears. Save your brakes so you will be able to slow or stop as required by road and traffic conditions. Shift your transmission to a low gear before starting down the grade and use the proper braking techniques. Please read carefully the section on going down long, steep downgrades safely in mountain driving. 2.6.7 Roadway Work Zones. Speeding traffic is the #1 cause of injury and death in roadway work zones. Observe the posted speed limits at all times when approaching and driving through a work zone. Watch your speedometer and don't allow your speed to creep up as you drive through long sections of road construction. Decrease your speed for adverse weather or road conditions. Decrease your speed even further when a worker is close to the roadway. Now we come to a quiz. I'm re-recording this because the camera died, so I've already taken this. And a couple of the questions were honestly a little, like, they could have been open to interpretation, so we'll see. Subsections 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. Test your knowledge. Number 1, how far ahead does the manual say you should look? 12 to 15 seconds, 1 block for city driving, and 1/4 mile for highway driving. Number 2, what are the 2 main things to look for ahead? Now, I said hazards and traffic, but they said, they basically said look for traffic. Look for vehicles coming onto the highway into your lane or turning. Watch for brake lights from slowing vehicles. By seeing these things far enough ahead, you can change your speed or change lanes if necessary to avoid a problem. If a traffic light has been green for a long time, it will probably change before you get there. Start slowing down and be ready to stop. I guess I would honestly just say, like, traffic and, like, and brake lights, or traffic and, like, lights. I guess that would cover us for everything. Number 3, what's your most important way to see the sides and rear of your vehicle? Well, number 1, you can't see the rear of your vehicle, so I would say mirrors, I guess. 4, what does communicating mean in safe driving? I would say using your indicators and your lights and even your horn. That's what I would say. Number 5, where should you place reflectors when stopped on a divided highway? A divided highway means any of the traffic that's, like, a divided highway would mean that there's a median or something, or a double line or whatever. So the only traffic I really need to worry about is coming from behind me. If it's not a divided highway, that's different. But for a divided highway, the reflectors need to be 10 feet behind my vehicle, 100 feet behind my vehicle, and 200 feet behind my vehicle. Number 6, what 3 things add up to total stopping distance? Your perception time, your reaction time, and your braking time. Number 7, if you go twice as fast, will your stopping distance increase by 2 or 4 times? It's 4. Number 8, empty trucks have the best braking. True or false? False. Actually, trucks were designed to operate best when completely fully loaded. So when you have an empty vehicle, it actually doesn't have as much traction. So that's, what you're dealing with. Number 9, what is hydroplaning? Hydroplaning is when there's any amount of water or slush on the road and it causes your wheels to lose traction, which means you lose control. Best way to stop yourself from hydroplaning is take your foot off the accelerator and put your foot completely down on the clutch, and that allows your wheels to turn normally and possibly could give you some more control over your vehicle. Hydroplaning is terrifying. I hate it. And you don't need much water or liquid on the road at all to hydroplane. Number 10, what is black ice? Black ice is a thin layer of ice that allows you to see the road underneath, and if the road looks wet, it could be black ice if you're somewhere near 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And if that's the case, if you either check, like if you have a temperature reading somewhere on your dash, or you open your window and you feel the your mirror, the front of your mirror or your antenna, and it's icy, you're probably driving on black ice, so you should reduce your speed to a crawl as quickly as possible without braking hard, and stop driving as soon as possible. These questions may be on the test. If you can't answer them all, reread subsections 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. Okay, so we've got still some time, so we're going to continue on. 2.7, managing space. And this is now on page 2.16 of the book. To be a safe driver, you need space all around your vehicle. When things go wrong, space gives you time to think and take action. To have space available when something goes wrong, you need to manage space. While this is true for all drivers, it's very important for large vehicles. They take up more space and they require more space for stopping and turning. 2.7.1, space ahead. Of all the space around your vehicle, it is the area ahead of the vehicle, the space you're driving into, that is most important. The need for space ahead. You need space ahead in case you must suddenly stop. According to accident reports, the vehicle that trucks and buses most often run into is the one in front of them. The most frequent cause is following too closely. Remember, if the vehicle ahead of you is smaller than yours, it can probably stop faster than you can. You may crash if you are following too closely. How much space? How much space should you keep in front of you? One good rule says you need at least 1 second, for each 10 feet of vehicle length that speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, you must add 1 second for safety. For example, if you're driving a 40-foot vehicle, you should leave 4 seconds between you and the vehicle ahead. In a 60-foot rig, you'll need 6 seconds. Over 40 miles per hour, you need 5 seconds for a 40-foot vehicle and 7 seconds for a 60-foot vehicle. See figure 2.12. Try and show this to you. It's a little hard on this camera because this camera is not as good. It's just a flip. So, sorry about it. To know how much space you have, wait until the vehicle ahead passes a shadow on the road, a pavement marking, or some other clear landmark. Then count off the seconds like this. 1001, 1002, and so on until you reach the same spot. Compare your count with the rule of 1 second for every 10 feet of length. If you are driving a 40-foot truck and only counted up to 2 seconds, you're too close. Drop back a little and count again until you have 4 seconds of following distance, or 5 if you're going over 40 miles per hour. After a little practice, you will know how far back you should be. Remember to add 1 second for speeds above 40 miles per hour. Also remember that when the road is slippery, you need much more space to stop. Okay, so typically we're going to be driving 53-foot vehicles. So you're going to, I personally would round up. And they're probably not going to ask you a 53-foot because that's almost like a trick question. But I would imagine, I would say, if you're doing over 40 miles per hour and you're going, so I would say like 7 seconds. Because most of the highways you're going to be doing more than 40 miles per hour. In good weather. Alright, 2.7.1, space behind. You can't stop others from following you too closely, but there are things you can do to make it safer. Stay to the right. Heavy vehicles are often tailgated when they can't keep up with the speed of traffic. This often happens when you're going uphill. If a heavy load is slowing you down, stay in the right lane if you can. Going uphill, you should not pass another slow vehicle unless you can get around quickly and safely. Dealing with tailgaters safely. In a large vehicle, it's often hard to see whether a vehicle is close behind you. You may be tailgated. When you are traveling slowly, drivers trapped behind slow vehicles... you may be tailgated when you are driving slowly. Drivers trapped behind slow vehicles often follow closely. In bad weather, many car drivers follow large vehicles closely during bad weather, especially when it's hard to see the road ahead. If you find yourself being tailgated, here are some things you can do to reduce the chances of a crash. Avoid quick lane changes. If you have to slow down or turn, signal early and reduce speed very gradually. Increase your following distance. Opening up room in front of you will help you to avoid having to make sudden speed or direction changes. It also makes it easier for the tailgater to get around you. Don't speed up. It's safer to be tailgated at a low speed than a high speed. Avoid tricks. Don't turn on your taillights or flash your brake lights. Follow the suggestions above. 2.7.3 Space to the sides. Commercial vehicles are often wide and take up most of a lane. Safe drivers will manage what little space they have. You can do this by keeping your vehicle centered in your lane and avoid driving alongside others. Staying centered in a lane. You need to keep your vehicle centered in the lane to keep safe clearance on either side. If your vehicle is wide, you have little room to spare. Traveling next to others. There are two dangers in traveling alongside other vehicles. Another driver may change lanes suddenly and turn into you. You may be trapped when you need to change lanes. Find an open spot where you aren't near other traffic. When traffic is heavy, it may be hard to find an open spot. If you must travel near other vehicles, try to keep as much space as possible between you and them. Also, drop back or pull forward so that you are sure the other driver can see you. Strong winds. Strong winds may make it difficult to stay in your lane. The problem is usually worse for lighter vehicles. This problem can be especially bad coming out of tunnels. Don't drive alongside others if you can avoid it. Spaces overhead, 2.7.4. Hitting overhead objects is a danger. Make sure you always have overhead clearance. Don't assume that the heights posted at bridges and overpasses are correct. Repaving or packed snow may have reduced the clearances since the heights were posted. The weight of a cargo van changes its height. An empty van is higher than a loaded one. That you got under a bridge when you were loaded does not mean that you can do it when you are empty. If you doubt you have safe space to pass under an object, go slowly. If you aren't sure you can make it, take another route. Warnings are often posted on low bridges or underpasses, but sometimes they are not. Some roads can cause a vehicle to tilt. There can be a problem clearing objects along the edge of the road, such as signs, trees, or bridge supports. Where this is a problem, drive a little closer to the center of the road. Before you back into an area, get out and check for overhanging objects such as trees, branches, or electric wires. It's easy to miss seeing them when you're backing. Also check for other hazards at the same time. 2.7.5 Space below. Many drivers forget about the space under their vehicles. That space can be very small when a vehicle is heavily loaded. This is often a problem on dirt roads and in unpaved yards. Don't take a chance on getting hung up. Drainage channels across roads can cause the ends of some vehicles to drag. Cross such depressions carefully. Railroad tracks can also cause problems, particularly when pulling tractors with a low underneath clearance. Don't take a chance on getting hung up halfway across. 2.7.6 Space for turns. The space around a truck or bus is important in turns because of wide turning and off-tracking. Large vehicles can hit other vehicles or objects during turns. Right turns. Here are some rules to help prevent right turn crashes. Turn slowly to give yourself and others more time to avoid problems. This is one of the questions that I remember. Okay. If you are driving a truck or a bus that cannot make the right turn without swinging into another lane, turn wide as you complete the turn. Keep the rear of your vehicle close to the curb. This will stop other drivers from passing you on the right. That's specifically a question. Don't turn wide to the left as you start the turn. A following driver may think that you are turning left and try to pass you on the right. You may crash into the other vehicle as you complete your turn. If you must cross into the oncoming lane to make a turn, watch out for vehicles coming towards you. Give them room to go by or to stop. However, don't back up for them because you might hit someone behind you. See figure 2.13. Left turns. On a left turn, make sure you have reached the center of the intersection before you start the left turn. If you turn too soon, the left side of your vehicle may hit another vehicle because of off-tracking. If there are 2 turning lanes, always take the right turn lane. Don't start in the inside lane because you may have to swing right to make the turn. Drivers on your left can be more readily seen. 2.7.7. Space needed to cross or enter traffic. Be aware of the size and weight of your vehicle when you cross or enter traffic. Here are some important things to keep in mind. Because of slow acceleration and the space large vehicles require, you may need a much larger gap to enter traffic than you would in a car. Acceleration varies with the load. Allow more room if your vehicle is heavily loaded. Before you start across the road, make sure you can get all the way across before traffic reaches you. Okay. 2.8, Seeing hazards. 2.8.1, Importance of seeing hazards. What is a hazard? This is one of the questions.
Sorry.
You okay? A hazard is any road condition or other road user, driver, bicyclist, pedestrian, that is a possible danger. For example, a car in front of you is headed toward the freeway exit, but his brake lights come on and he begins braking hard. This could mean that the driver is uncertain about taking the off-ramp. He might suddenly return to the highway. This car is a hazard. If the driver of the car cuts in front of you, it is no longer just a hazard. It is an emergency. Seeing hazards lets you be prepared. You will have more time to act if you see hazards before they become emergencies. In the example above, you might make a lane change or slow down to prevent a crash if the car suddenly cuts in front of you. Seeing this hazard gives you time to check your mirrors and signal a lane change. Marvy, what are you doing? Give me 1 sec, and then I'll take you OUC. Being prepared reduces the danger. A driver who did not see the hazard until the slow car pulled back on the highway in front of him would have to do something very suddenly. Sudden braking or a quick lane change is much more likely to lead to a crash. Learning to see hazards. There are often clues that will help you see hazards. The more you drive, the better you can learn to see hazards. This section will talk about hazards that you should be aware of. Hazardous roads. Move over laws. The incidence of law enforcement officers, emergency and medical services, fire department personnel, and people working on the road are being struck while performing duties at the roadside are increasing at a frightening pace. To lessen the problem, move-over laws have been enacted. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take him. Don't worry.
I'll take him.
Which require drivers to slow and change lanes when approaching a roadside incident or emergency vehicle. Signs are posted on roadways in states that have such laws. When approaching an authorized emergency vehicle stopped on the roadside or a work zone, you should proceed with caution by slowing and yielding the right-of-way by making a lane change into a lane not next to that of the authorized emergency vehicle or work zone if safety and traffic conditions permit. If a lane change is unsafe, slow down and proceed with caution while maintaining a safe speed for traffic conditions. Slow down and be very careful if you see any of the following. We'll cover that in the next video, actually, because we're going to run short on time, I think. Actually, no, I think we could do this. Okay, slow down and be very careful if you see any of the following road hazards. Work zones. When people are working on the road, it is a hazard. There may be narrower lanes, sharp turns, or uneven surfaces. Other drivers are often distracted and drive unsafely. Workers in construction vehicles may get in the way. Drive slowly and carefully near work zones. Use your four-way flashers or brake lights to warn drivers behind you. drop-off. Sometimes the pavement drops off sharply near the edge of the road. Driving too near the edge can tilt your vehicle toward the side of the road. This can cause the top of your vehicle to hit roadside objects, signs, tree limbs. Also, it can be hard to steer as you cross the drop-off, going off the road or coming back on. Foreign objects. Things that have fallen on the road can be hazards. They can be a danger to your tires and wheel rims. They can damage electrical and brake lines. They can be caught between dual tires and cause severe damage. Some obstacles that appear to be harmless can be very dangerous. For example, cardboard boxes may be empty, but they may also contain some solid or heavy material capable of causing damage. The same is true of paper and cloth sacks. It is important to remain alert for objects of all sorts, so you can see them early enough to avoid them without making sudden, unsafe moves. Off-ramps, on-ramps. Freeway and turnpike exits can be particularly dangerous for commercial vehicles. Off-ramps and on-ramps often have speed limit signs posted. Remember, these speeds may be safe for automobiles, but may not be safe for larger vehicles or heavily loaded vehicles. Exits that go downhill and turn at the same time can be especially dangerous. The downgrade makes it difficult to reduce speed. Braking and turning at the same time can be a dangerous practice. Make sure you are going slowly enough before you get on the curved part of an off-ramp or an on-ramp. Alright, that's going to be the end of this part 12. We didn't have any questions, so that means coming into the next video, number 13, we're not going to have any questions to answer, and we're just going to keep it moving. We're leaving off on Section 2, Driving Safely, page 2-19. And I want to thank you for being with me in this part of the manual, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.